my channel's pretty much seems like it's been on hold with everything that's been going on for the last 6 or 8 months, that just getting the video out there makes me feel better. I'm not even concerned with how it does for a while. I'll quickly get back to being concerned. I have a bad habit of opening the YouTube Studio app on my phone like every 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to set my phone down. It drives me nuts.
I know what that's like.
And I don't even know what I expect to see in there. Like, most of my, 90% of my videos are all doing the same thing. What am I going to log in and be like, oh, looky there, 9,000 people just subscribed today? No, that's not going to happen. So it's just, what if? It could happen, Donovan, it could happen.
You never know.
I'm going to start doing Ninjago projects, and then you're going to have some competition.
Right?
I would say yes, but judging by the performance of my last Ninjago project, I don't think that's the case anymore.
Well, that just means you need more.
More projects.
More, yeah, Ninjago stuff. Can you ever run out of that? Like, can you just...
Well, there's 15 seasons and still going, so...
Yeah, there you go.
Not yet.
I haven't watched that. I love Legos. Never watched the... I have started watching the... What's the new Disney Plus thing? The animated thing you guys are talking about? What If?
What If?
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. I like that. It's good.
I think I'm ready when you guys are.
I think I'm ready as well.
Okay. We're about on time.
Ready.
You guys need to be quiet, please. We're streaming.
Okay. I was just making sure I was quiet.
I wasn't talking to you.
I know.
I don't want to get grounded the first time I'm on here.
All right. Let's go and do it. What's up, Internet? You're listening to the Making Geeks podcast, a podcast for makers, families, and geeks. We have a very special show here today. We have a special guest with us. We have Derek from the SquareSplinter YouTube channel.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, Derek?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
I wonder if anybody's actually ever heard of SquareSplinter in the Making Geeks podcast world. Not that you may have mentioned it every week.
I don't see why
At the
they would
end.
have, yeah.
Who knows?
Other than mentioning it every week.
That's right. Funny story from that Wes, Donovan, that like we were just talking before we started about Workbench Con and going to Workbench Con. I actually became the patron of the whatever you want to call it for Making Geeks at Workbench Con. I don't remember how the joke it started as a joke. I was talking to Wes about it, and Clint was, at the time, he was the #1 patron. I was like, I just need to outdo him by $1, just to be funny, and then it stuck. It's been there ever since.
Take that, Clint.
Yeah, take that, Clint. Jeez, I'm surprised he hasn't outdone me again.
I appreciate that. You're playing the long game for the joke. Like, it's still funny, right?
I know. Yeah, it's costing me. It's a pretty expensive joke, to be honest.
I salute your commitment, yeah.
It's going on a year. I'm not sure what kind of point I'm trying to prove, but it's still funny.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's still funny.
Rivalries among them patrons. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. If there's going to be any sort of competition for patrons, it should be who wants to pay the most money. That's definitely the best one.
I can completely support that.
Yeah. Well, cool. So what's up, guys?
Yeah, so what you guys been up to this week?
Everybody go at once.
Yeah, we usually try to. Let's see. I got a Glowforge all set up since I talked last. I think the last time I spoke, I may or may not have set up my Husky workbench table for it. But it's a stupendous table to support the Glowforge. It's like the perfect size. Nicole and Turi from When Geeks Craft came by, who are the resident experts for Glowforge, as far as I'm concerned. At least within a drivable distance from my house. They came over and helped me set it up, and we got some footage of that process, and it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
It's a pretty solid machine. From a build perspective, I have run into a couple issues here and there, but they have resolved themselves through the magic of cloud-based software, I guess. I had an issue where, like, so for those that aren't aware, there's a camera on the underside of the lid, and every time you lift the lid to put something new in there and shut it, it basically takes a picture of what's in there and updates your user interface, your screen, to show you what's there, so you can like manipulate different objects and put them, text or pictures or whatever, so you can like basically lay out your design on your workpiece or what have you. And for some reason, it would not update the image. It kept it the same from like a previous time I had lifted the lid, and I tried probably like an hour lifting the lid, changing it, like turning the machine off, back on, resetting the Wi-Fi on it, all kinds of things, changing a different browser, tried it from my phone, tried it from my laptop, and it just would not refresh. And then I kind of left it in frustration and came back like an hour later, and it worked. I don't know. So it was a little odd.
Just
thing.
cause?
Yeah.
They debited some money out of your account.
Yeah,
So they
exactly.
allowed it to work.
Yep. But besides that,
Good.
it's been pretty cool. I got my wife and kids have been dabbling with it just to kind of experiment, and so far so
I've
good.
never used a Glowforge. I've used lasers a lot. Like the place that I worked at last, we had a giant one. The bed was 35 by 50. It
Wow,
was
it's huge.
125 watt one, and it was it came from China. It's Thunder Laser was the brand that we got. And I think with a lot of those, I'm sure you guys know this, Glowforge compared to some of those Chinese ones. Those Chinese ones are great and they can work great if you're the kind of person that likes to tinker with testing things and moving things and changing things and coming up with your own software to use it. And there's no QR codes for scanning materials, that you stick the material in there and hit go and see what happens. And then you have to make the changes. But if you can get past that, for the money, they're great. I mean, that machine,
Yeah.
it was fantastic. So pretty neat stuff. Technology.
Oh,
Who'd
yeah.
have thunk it?
Maybe Donovan, what have you been up to this week?
I finished my wall art project. I took a bunch of scrap 4x4s and cut them into little pieces, and have spent the last couple weeks sanding them, which is terrible. Everybody loves sanding. And then nailing them to my wall to turn a boring wall into some wood art. And then a couple days ago, what I did is I popped off some of the pieces, and I laser cut a box with some Breath of the Wild stencil designs in each of the boxes, and then made a little holder for these little remote control puck lights that I got from Walmart. And so I put a puck light in each of the little boxes, put the boxes in each of the little spots on the wall. And so whenever I want to, I can just hit a button and it lights up the stencil designs of these little boxes. And they sit about 1.5 inches out from the rest of the wall. So they kind of, it's little accents, and the black contrast the pine color. It looks really cool. I was worried it was not going to look cool. It looks really cool.
Oh, I just seen the picture on Instagram. I think it looks freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that to a wall in my shop.
I really like how it turned out. I was going to upload the video for that today, but couldn't bring myself to do it, so I'm going to try again tomorrow.
That's a lot of work. That's a lot of cutting.
Yeah.
4x4s.
Yeah, there's so much. For days and days, my garage was just sawdust.
And you cut them by hand, right?
I had to
Use
wear
like
a
hand
mask.
saw.
I had to wear goggles. I'm like, yeah, it was just hanging in the air for
Right,
days.
of course. You cut them with a handsaw too, right?
Oh, yeah. It's the only way to do it.
Right. Right.
Been working out a bunch of customer orders lately, just little things that have gotten ordered. Sometimes they're things like birthday parties and stuff. Just simple shapes repetitively on the Glowforge, and luckily the ambient temperature in my garage has been low enough that I've actually been able to use the Glowforge, which is kind of nice. So right now it almost seems like it's a kind of a seasonal tool, unfortunately. So as soon as the temperature drops, it's back to working on that. In addition,
So is it like using a camera where if it gets too hot, it just flashes too hot, or does it stop working? Like,
so what happens is
what does it do?
because it's cloud-based, because it's cloud-based software, you'll see it on the browser app, or basically through the browser on Glowforge's site. It'll say cooling down, and you'll hear the intake fan spin up really high and try to cool itself off for a period of time.
Really?
And I usually have to turn it off and wait till later in that night or the following morning when temperature is just really, really low. There's supposed to be some workarounds for it, where if you blow a really cold fan or air conditioner at the intake, it should help to keep it cooler. But I don't have that in my garage, and it really bugs me having to run an additional piece of equipment like that or start up an air conditioner to keep the Glowforge cool. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do in the long run about it, other than just make sure I run it at certain times of day where that cooling issue wouldn't be a hindrance on the machine running. With winter coming up, I won't have to worry about it for a while. Once we get to spring and summer, I'll try to think about that problem solving bit again. But that stuff is for customers. What did you say?
That surprises me. Like, how I can't be that hot in your shop, right? That should affect a machine like that. That seems odd.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know what normal circumstances are because of where I live. My garage gets up to 90 degrees sometimes, and just in terms of the ambient temperature, and then however much the Glowforge heats up. I think it has certain things built in place. As I have a feeling that whatever sensors are in place, like a thermistor or whatever, they're overly sensitive to to temperatures,
Right.
and probably cutting it even more than what it could actually withstand. I'm assuming. And
So you can't put like an ice cube in the reservoir or anything to try and...
no, and there is a reservoir in there, but to give like a visual example, if anybody's watching the live stream, the reservoir isn't much bigger than this mouse.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure there's coolant in there.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that really helps cycle it, and the amount of liquid in there is a lot less. And by comparison, I think I've talked about it on the show before, I have a 5-gallon bucket of distilled water attached to my K40.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that overkill then?
I don't think so, because it's in there, and
That's
I've
enough
had the
volume
lid
to allow it
closed.
to cool off. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had the that 5-gallon bucket filled up for 2 years, and I have not opened the lid once, and it just runs.
Yeah, especially if you're doing long cuts or engravings or whatever. It warms up pretty good.
Yeah, and I, for the most part, I'm not doing really high production. My wife is doing a lot more right now than I am, but single cuts maybe 40 minutes when I do like an engraving project or something like that, and maybe I run a couple back to back, but I'm not running 8 hours straight.
Right.
But then, I mean, the
Yeah.
Glowforge isn't advertised as a production type machine, anyways. It really is advertised as a hobby type machine. I think that because you look at the price tag of what, $3,000 or $4,000, you want to think of it being more. But that's just kind of the way it is.
Shove a bunch of ice packs in there around the reservoir or something.
Everybody says it's more about the intake than the reservoir itself. I'm not really. I'd have to probably look at the documentation a little more to really look at the connection between those different parts. You have the exhaust, you have the coolant reservoir, and then you have the fan intake. And I think it's the fan intake, whatever temperature it's pulling in, that everybody says has to be that intake air has to be cooler. So I don't know among those three things which one is the most important that could probably be improved.
So just getting a squirt bottle with water is probably not a good idea.
Think about like a big
Just
super
squirt.
soaker.
Just squirt it every once in a while.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is that I'm starting my next video, which has been, about a month since I've started one. I'm just redoing a rocking chair, but I got a new camera that I want to test. So we'll see if the video quality is any different.
Nice.
Well, this technically it's from work, but I get all the fun toys at work and I get to.
What is it?
It is a Canon M50, EOS M50. So it's not a high-end camera, but it's a fairly decent quality. They call it a vlogging camera. So I'm wondering, like, the depth of field inherent in it will make the video look a little bit better than what I'm currently using, because I'm using.
That's what I shoot on.
It is. I'm currently shooting on a Panasonic HD camcorder, which has been great. It's been a vast improvement over my iPhone that I used to use, but I think that the image quality might even be better with this. So I'll be giving that a try in my next video.
I bought a new camera last year, and I regret not switching to mirrorless camera just because, from a size standpoint, so much easier to move around and manipulate and everything.
Yeah, I bought a couple of those cameras for work mainly because I'm gonna have my students start doing stop motion animation, and I wanted a dependable camera that you can actually zoom in and have like a good optical zoom for some of those things. Yeah, that's what I'm up to.
That is something I do not have patience for. I don't know how people do that. The stop.
I don't know. I'll let you know because I honestly have not done much of it.
Really?
No, I mean I know the concepts and I've done it in like very small bursts, but because of what I'm teaching, some of the students need something more tangible. So I'm hoping that approach might be helpful for them. And I bought a couple of like the professional armatures too. They have like the screws and the joints, so that'll be something I'll be experimenting with too. I might even do a video on my second channel with some of that stuff.
Nice.
Some of that stuff's really neat. People put a lot of work into that. Can make some really neat stuff.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of fun, very time consuming.
Yeah, very time consuming for sure. So I just uploaded a video that's been in the works for months because life getting in the way. I guess now's as good as time I needed to maybe talk about that just a little bit. Probably it's been, what is this? It's September. Golly, this year's flown by. Back in the beginning of this year, the shop that I was in was in the back of the place that I was working, the sign shop. That's why I had access to the laser and all kinds of different equipment. Well, the business was starting to grow, and I actually had another job offer. So, perfect storm. I kind of got kicked out of the back end of the shop, and I left that job at the same time. Well, in the amount of time that I'd been there, I collected a bunch of tools and all kinds of different stuff. And I live in an old house, and we only have a one-car garage. So that stuff was not going to go back in the garage. There was no way that I could do it. So everything was basically on hold until I could figure something out about that. And I don't know, I guess the stars aligned, and my wife and I talked a lot about it, and we was able to buy a commercial space that was only like 4 blocks away from my house.
Wow. Dang.
It's awesome. It's an old body shop. So like me doing woodworking stuff, it still has the paint booth stuff there. So like it cannot be better for that, because as anybody that does woodworking knows, in most garages or whatnot, like when you go to finish something, you're pretty much done for the day, because you don't want dust flying around when you got finish stuck on something. So it worked out, but it took a long time to transition into that. And in the middle of all that, starting a new job, transitioning to that new shop, trying to get that new shop set up, it just basically put my YouTube channel on hold. There's no way that I just didn't have time to get videos done and whatnot. And it sucks because my channel was starting to get a lot of growth. Like I was averaging at the peak, probably the beginning of this year, I was starting to get up in the 600 to 700 subscriber a month average range, which for a channel my size is good. And then of course, YouTube, Mr. Algorithm, when you stop uploading videos, he stops sending people to watch your videos in a big way. So the analytics thing, I got to where I didn't even want to log in and look at it, because I don't know if the graph could have been any bigger of a steep incline that they showed me that my view count had, but it's okay because I got it back. I just released a video on that epoxy and wood veneer light fixture, which was I'm glad it's done. It was a ton of work. I could have made that video. I bet I had even edited and cut down. I probably had another 30 minutes of footage. I could have added in there of all the little things that I had to do to make that work. And I decided it wasn't worth it because there's very few people that are probably going to want to sit through and watch all of that. So I cut it down quite a bit, got it up, and the light's great. The video's, like I said, it's up. I'm glad that it's up. It gets a big weight off my chest, and now I can kind of move on because now I can get back on schedule. I have tons of ideas, tons of videos I need to shoot. I've talked to Donovan a little bit. I wish I could find a video editor because I have so many. I like the editing part, but I don't know if you guys have ever suffered from this. You probably somebody can relate to this. I've always been the kind of person that when I go to try to start to learn something new, I like go hell bent on trying to learn every single thing that I can about that subject before I start doing it. Well, when you go into something like video editing, good luck trying to learn everything about that from Premiere or whatever program you use and After Effects. Good grief, there's a ton of stuff. So I know I've done all this training and everything and know all these cool things that I could do, but then I sit down in front of the computer and I'm like, okay, now which video did I watch and which training did I do to teach me how to do this? And then I forget, and then I get frustrated, and then I'm like, you know what? I don't even want to do this right now. And I get up and I go do something else and then come back to it. But that'll definitely be my first helper if I ever get a helper for my YouTube channel, is that slows me down the most. I have tons of ideas for projects and I could film them really quick and kick them out. It's just the editing really holds me up. But first world problems, as they say. But the next things I'm going back to probably is a couple of furniture projects. I do like making, I won't say odd furniture, but just kind of unique design furniture, like some of the builds that I have on my channel.
Yeah, so for those that aren't familiar with you and your channel, if you give us a little preview or a little snippet of what you like to do, what you like to make, and that sort of thing.
Mostly my background before I went to college, even when I was a kid, was woodworking for sure. I talked to you guys a little bit before we got on here that when I was a kid, my grandpa managed a furniture store in my local town, and I'm old enough, believe it or not, that was back when furniture stores actually worked on the furniture they sold, so which is unheard of nowadays. But back then, if you bought a couch or chair or table or whatever from them, and their warranty was if it broke, you took it back up there and they took it back in the wood shop and they fixed it. And it wasn't throwing a couple of screws in it. Like they had full, I mean, they had amazing craftsmen there that fixed the furniture. Well, me being a little kid, I was not interested in building furniture. I was interested in cutting out machine guns out of wood and running around shooting invisible monsters on top of all the furniture. So that's what I grew up with, is my wooden machine guns. And then when I got to high school, even as a younger kid, I was always trying to build my own tree fort. And luckily I never broke any bones, which is amazing. So all my tree forts held up. But I always loved building stuff. When I got to high school, I took shop class. We had a woods class and we had an advanced woodworking class. And I actually took that class 3 times because the rules were a little less strict back then, and I could retake electives even if I had taken that class the year prior. So I took that class 3 times, and that's where I got the basis of my woodworking training, I guess you could say. The problem is I was a little hellion in high school, it might as well have been
Same thing.
Yeah, in high school, somebody should have kicked the shit out of me, to be honest, when I was in high school, because I could have gotten so much more out of my woodworking classes and all that back then, but I was just there filling time more than anything. And that's one of the big things I regret, because I still have I built a couple of cedar chests and stuff in that class, and I still have them. And I'm probably gonna post some pictures one of these days on social media of that project because oh my god, it's god awful. It's so terrible. Like everything they say that you shouldn't do in woodworking, I did it proudly on that cedar chest, like in grain to side grain gluing, and it's just crazy. But it's held up all this time, so it's been pretty good. But after that in college, I went to school for graphic design, so that's helped me a lot as far as marketing materials for SquareSplinter stuff, designing my own logos and websites, marketing material, and all that. So that's been a big help for that. But I love building furniture probably more than anything, and just artistic type stuff. And that seems to be what's done the best on my channel is artistic stuff. Made a clock that was actually made out of trash. Like I picked the pieces of wood and the acrylic for that clock out of the trash, and it's got like I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000 views on
Nice.
it. And every stupid Facebook sharing panda site took that and like cut it down. I bet that video's had like 20 million views. Of course, I didn't get a dime of that, but it was shared. I had my friends like texting me or sending me messages on Facebook, and it's like, "Is this your video? What the heck? Look how many views it has." I'm like, "Well, I sure ain't getting nothing for it." But yeah, that's me. So, but that and the dining table that I built has probably been I've had the most positive reactions out of people. Just the design, and I love the design part of that. My thought was I was trying to make it look like old steel bridge supports, like the arches of a bridge. So that's kind of where I got the inspiration from on the legs for that dining table. So that was a big one. And the next one I'm getting ready to do is a side table that kind of goes along that same style. That'll probably be my next video. I got to go get the wood for that and stuff, but I'm trying to get back on 2-week schedule again. So it's a lot of work, as a lot of people know, working a full-time job and trying to be on a regular schedule for YouTube. It's tough, but I enjoy it so far.
Yeah, I'm looking at your site right
And
now.
you've
You have
been
some
doing
beautiful
this-
builds.
Thank you. Yeah. I have a bad habit of building stuff and not videoing it as well. Like you hear from any big YouTuber, they're like, everything's content. Anything that I make that I build, and I suffer from ADD pretty bad. So a lot of times I will go to the shop and I'll just start making something, and I put like all my thought into that, and then I just completely forget about videoing or anything, and I just start building it. And then about halfway through, I'm like, oh crap, I should have probably videoed this, so it'd take 10 times longer to build. But I built a lot of stuff that I haven't videoed, which I might regret, or I can just rebuild the stuff. Who knows? I don't know.
There's always the Jimmy DiResta solution where you just hang a GoPro from your neck and spill.
Yeah, and I guess I don't classify myself as being as interesting enough as Jimmy that I can just stand a camera up on a tripod and hit record and then fast forward the video. I wish I could, but as I've heard you guys talk about and heard other people talk about, man, the YouTube and the woodworking and the makers and the DIY people in YouTube, like, I don't know what the numbers are, but the number of channels, even since I started my channel 3 years ago, oh my God, it's blown up like crazy. So much more competition for views.
Yep.
Big time. Big time.
But I think also not only, we're also getting more eyeballs on it as well that have never really considered that sort of avenue of entertainment. It's getting more and more mainstream. Not watching as many cable programming shows and whatnot. But then again, there's also crossover in the other direction, so it's sort of just spreading out everywhere, kind of like wildfire.
Right.
Like all the maker channels, they seem to be getting like a resurgence from what I understand and what I can see, even from like network TV, like with Making It and all those things.
Right. So I have a question for all three of you guys. The question is, how often do you watch YouTube? I know it doesn't matter what you watch. I'm just curious how often you watch it, and what platform do you use to watch those videos? Like your phone, the computer, or what? Do you guys watch a lot of YouTube?
I watch YouTube probably every day.
Same.
Yeah, my chosen platform is a desktop computer
Same.
because I
Really?
usually have a little bit of time at work that I call my research time.
I like that. Research time.
But I mean, a good portion of it is for classes and other things I forward and show students as demonstrations for things. But it's also kind of like my relaxation time. I feel more relaxed sitting down watching the different YouTube videos of things that I like, and than I do sitting down trying to watch TV on Netflix or something sometimes.
See, I watch it a lot. I watch it a lot, and not necessarily other people in our space as much anymore.
Mhm.
But I just watch YouTube in general a lot. But it's different for me. It's honestly like traditional TV to me because I have a Apple TV, so I have the YouTube app on my Apple TV. So when I go to that, it's literally just like scrolling through Reader's Digest when I was a kid. When you flip through the magazine, to see what was on. Only now I do it with my finger on a piece of thin glass on top of a remote that amazes me. But I watch it all the time. Like I seriously watch YouTube just like it's network TV pretty much. It's kind of how I treat it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm just always curious what other people do with that.
Yeah, my viewership of YouTube increased a ton when obviously I cut cable. This is probably 10 years ago now. But
Yeah.
that's when I started using that as more of a resource and stuff. And just kind of, yeah, like you say, I don't necessarily watch strictly maker-related videos. A lot of science stuff or Veritasium or Smarter Every Day and
Yeah.
some new stuff every once in a while, but that gets kind of depressing after a while. So a lot of movie review stuff and like geek-centric things.
I like watching the movie. They do those like movie trailer mashup or they're
Honest
Analysis.
trailers.
yeah. Well, the
Oh, yeah.
ones that just show like movies coming out next year and there's like 30 trailers in a row or whatever.
Oh, nice.
I like watching
Wow.
those. Yeah, cinema sins and those guys. I like those too. Pretty good. Pretty good. So what else? A question for me about life? You need some relationship advice? I can give Donovan some advice on what he should and shouldn't eat. So he's so judgy.
Conversation I feel
Oh,
we
man.
have every time we come
I know
down.
because I'm okay. Everybody listening, we gotta hash this about Donovan and his freaking eating habits compared to every other human. I'm gonna say, but definitely he lives in the Midwest. I live an hour and 15 minutes north of Donovan, but he eats like I don't know, not somebody from the Midwest. The first time I ever went down to Donovan's house when we helped with the playhouse, or was it?
Well, the first time you ever came down was when you gave me the Switch.
Oh,
And that was our first ever
At Chick-
in-person encounter, and we had Chick-fil-A.
two grown men in Chick-fil-A parking lot handing a Switch back and forth at the beginning of COVID. Yeah,
Yeah.
we went down
Down
there.
like at a McDonald's man's play place or something, because that would have been the creepy part.
In a ball pit.
Yeah,
In the
yeah,
ball in the ball pit.
In the ball pit. No, I'd had to have a hell of a lot of alcohol wipes to get in that ball pit. I'll tell you that.
Talk about hand sanitizer. Yeah.
No, the second time we came down, I think, is when we introduced you to Zoe's.
Oh, okay. That's what it was. So Zoe's, the place is fantastic. I'd never heard of it before, because it didn't have red meat in the title. So he's reading off the menu to Zoe's, right? And he read off about 80% of the menu, and I understood maybe half the words that he said on what the food was at Zoe's. But when we got down to salad, and I like salad as long as it's piled with unhealthy things. So I got a salad with chicken and ranch and cheese and every other unhealthy thing on it. Every time I go to Donovan, they eat so healthy that it will literally make you feel guilty just eating normal food. Like if I have a bad habit of drinking too much pop. I can admit that. If the one time I bought a pop when I was with Donovan, I apologized to him. Like that's how weird it is. That's the stigma that's around Donovan's house with eating healthy. Like we were working on the Playhouse thing, and we had to go to Lowe's for probably the 700th time that Donovan had to go to Lowe's for the Playhouse project. And I bought a pop in the as we're checking out, and as I'm paying for it, I turned around to him and said, "Oh crap, Donovan, I'm sorry. Like you guys don't drink pop at your house." And then when I got outside, I'm like, "What the hell? I'm not gonna apologize for somebody drinking pop. Get the hell out of here." But it's just funny because I got a lot of respect for you guys eating healthy like you do. I wish it's just jealousy on my part. I wish I did eat healthier, but I just like give Donovan a hard time because it's funny.
Mm-hmm. In my defense, I am not from the Midwest.
That's very true.
So I don't
That's very true.
eat like I'm from the Midwest.
No, sir, you do not. Do not. Funny.
But I just had a brain fart and forgot what I was going to ask you because I got distracted by thinking about Zoe's because it's been such a long time since you've come down. We've been to Zoe's together.
Need a quick tofu break?
I do need a tofu break. So yeah, you and I have worked together on a few projects.
Mm-hmm.
How come I've never come up to you? How come you've never invited me to your place to come work on stuff?
Well, after that little story that I just told, probably because I would feel so ashamed of having you in the presence of all my cannibalistic nature towards animals and red meat that, I don't know, I think you might have like some sort of seizure or something.
The risk I'm willing to take. I'm just putting that out there now.
To be honest, now that I'm in the new shop and I got most of it set up, I do want you to come up. I think we can make some really cool stuff. I have tons of room for activities now. So,
well, good.
Yeah.
I'll wait for your invite.
Okay.
In the meantime,
hold your breath. Hold your breath.
So, I don't know if this has happened where you guys are at, but the price of wood has dropped.
Mm-hmm.
Like
a lot.
Dramatically. Like as dramatic as it went up during the start of the pandemic when a 2x4 went from $2 to $10 a board, and like 4x8 sheets of plywood jumped up to like $60 or $80. It was insane. It was insane. And so there were big projects that had to be put on hold just because it would have been way too expensive to try and do them.
It slowed me down for sure.
Yeah. But one of the things about here lately is that the price of wood has dropped down. It's not quite where it was before everything went crazy, but it's down cheap enough that I'm like, okay, we can start working on big projects again.
Yeah.
So one of the conversations that I'm having is building another playhouse, but this time in my brother's backyard. I think I've talked about it on the channel on the podcast before, but he wants an Invader Zim playhouse structured out of Zim's house, but he wants it 2-story, and he wants the foundation to be 7 foot by 10 foot. So it's essentially a tiny home. This thing is going to be massive.
Wow.
But when the price of wood went up, we're like, nope, can't do this right now. Everything's put on pause. Yeah, because it would. It would. I ran the numbers for it one time, and I think it was like $4,500 for the materials that we needed. I'm like, it's not worth it. We're not going to make that much back, from doing the video. We'll put it on pause. We'll wait till everything calms down, prices go back down again. And I'm so excited because prices have gone back down again, and so that project is now in the work. I'm just putting that out there in case you want to come down again. The invite is open to come work on another playhouse, but this time not in the middle of summer when it's like 1,000
talking to me when
degrees.
you did that?
Yes, I did. I am talking to you.
I've never been invited either.
The last time I went to Donovan's house, I'm pretty sure Satan was sunbathing on his roof when we were there because it was so freaking hot. Oh my God, the heat index was like 15 that day, and Donovan's like, you know what? Build something outside. That sounds like a good idea. And then on the same day or the next day, we had to put the flooring, and he's putting the wall coverings inside this tiny wooden box when it was 115 outside. So you can imagine how wonderful it felt, him and me singing Kumbaya, literally sitting next to each other inside the clubhouse trying to put all that stuff together. It was a story.
Sounds so bad.
Yeah, it was a story you tell your grandkids
Right.
someday.
Makes it more memorable, right?
Yep. Learn a lot of things about Donovan when you're bumping elbows when it's 115 in a wooden box. For sure.
Yeah. But I mean, that's going to give us another opportunity to work together if you want to.
Let's do it. I'm ready. You buy.
I'm also excited because the project that I have had in mind since the moment I walked inside this house, before we bought it,
Oh, I know it. I know the answer to
is
this.
to do the under the stairs hobbit hole. I've officially got the green light from my wife, and so the next project I'm working on is turning my under the stairs into a hobbit home. So that's going to be exciting.
That'll be cool for sure. It'll be really cool.
What are your guys' next projects? Sean, you talked about you're doing furniture, right?
Yeah, it should be really quick. Once I start, it should be like a 2-day turnaround. It's redoing a rocking chair, and we'll see if I can trigger all of the furniture nerds on YouTube. Derek not included, because I think that you're in a different category here.
You're doing it wrong.
And the reason why I brought it up is I did a furniture restoration thing a couple of years ago that did fairly well as a video, but I got beat up in the comments for two different things. One, I called it a restoration, and a lot of people had problems with that term because I wasn't really restoring it to its original state, but I guess the more accurate term was refinishing. So I'm going to see if maybe I could capitalize that on a little bit more.
What the hell is people's problem in YouTube comments with the nomenclature of whatever it is that you're working on? Who cares if you said restoration or refurbishing or whatever? Just watch the video, and if you don't like it, go to the next video. These
I honestly didn't care.
These freaking people that go down there and type their internet troll comments
Or
like,
increasing your engagement. Yeah.
I know. I actually want to start making videos like calling these people out. Like I want to actually try to contact them on social media and see if I can talk to them and be like, what possesses you to be such an idiot? Like that's what I want to know most of the time.
Lead with that, I'm sure.
I've had some stupid comments. And most of them, like everybody gets, well, if I had all those tools, I could make that. Well, guess what? You're watching a channel that I make stuff and build stuff. Turns out you do have to have tools. You don't have to have the same ones I have, but you do have to have some tools.
I think the funny thing is that about that chair video that I was referencing is that I made the decision, and I don't know if it was good or bad. It was something I was trying. I wrapped the feet with brass, and I didn't do a very good job with it, admittedly. But people were so upset with that design choice that the comments were. There's a couple hundred comments before YouTube deleted them. Just that looks horrible. It's the worst thing ever.
And you're a bad person because of that somehow.
I mean, I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm just kind of figuring things out. I've seen that design style before. I thought it added something to the chair, and okay, you don't like it.
What did they hate about it? Like the way you did it, or just the design of the brass being there?
It was both. I mean, the technique that I used and what I did really was not good, which I had even admitted, I think, in the video. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
Did you like spray paint aluminum foil with brass spray paint or what?
Oh, you know what? I should do that for this new one. Yes. I should do it like in the worst way possible. Like construction paper and spray it brass and or 3D print like these brass cuffs to go on it. I just might do that.
One of these days, while river tables is still a thing, I want to build a really nice river table bench thing or something, and then paint it. Just paint it solid. Just paint it solid black. Yeah, it'll be like 2-inch thick walnut because I have a really good source for solid wood and I get it really cheap. So I'll get this like 6-foot long, 2-inch thick solid walnuts, and then dump a bunch of epoxy in it, and then just paint it white.
White latex paint.
Yes, and then maybe set it on fire. I don't know, something like that. But I love getting people riled up like that. I think it's hilarious. And a lot of people say I just ignore the comments. Well, if you go back to Like by far the biggest video on my channel, which I regret more than anything. I'm telling you, I would have taken it down if it didn't do so well. Was my second video I ever did. I had no freaking clue what I was doing in YouTube at this time, and I made a video that said in the title, make your like DIY barn door hardware, no cutting, no welding, costs under $10. The wor- I'm not gonna say it's the worst title choice because the video is done fantastic, but that video it's closing in on 800,000 views, I think. But that video has thousands of comments, thousands that all say $10. What the hell? You can't do that for $10. And I'm like, at the time, I'm like, okay, that's what I paid for it. No, I didn't go to Lowe's and buy all that stuff, but I have good sources for metal, and I had all these parts laid out, and it did cost me $10. But I didn't think about Joe Blow in California trying to buy the same stuff. It's probably not going to be $10. I didn't clarify that very well, so it just the comments are hilarious. But every once in a while, when I'm feeling good about myself and I just want to take myself down a notch, I go read some of the comments, and I'll comment back to them, just be sarcastic, and like most of them, almost a good portion of them are always, you're trying to say that these are DIY, but you have thousands and thousands of dollars worth of tools. And I'm like, I made that project with a $40 Harbor Freight drill press and a $15 angle grinder from Harbor Freight. Yeah, thousands of dollars of tools. And that guy, I actually offered to ship my tools to him for $1,000. Like he said they were worth 10,000. I said I'll sell them to you for 1,000 and ship them to you for free. All the tools that I used in that video. It's just, oh god, these people push my buttons.
What's your next project, Wes?
Well, I do have to do at least one video on the Glowforge to start that process. It won't be anything terribly exciting. It'll probably just be like an overview of maybe like the ordering process, actually, and the process that it takes from the moment you would decide to get one to right before you open it. Like that period of time is actually, I think, it can be kind of telling for like your relationship with the company and like how they present themselves and things. I think you can get a lot of valuable information out of that sequence of time that is usually skipped over. Usually most people start at the unboxing, right? But I found value in that, so I wanted to maybe highlight some stuff I learned or figured out. The other thing besides the Glowforge video, before Christmas, I do need to work on the Avengers Snow Globe.
That's a
project.
cool idea. I think that would be really neat when you do that.
And
Is that the action figure one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But besides,
Do you like the Glowforge? Do you like that as just as a laser that's useful for somebody that wants a laser?
I mean, so
compared
far,
to the
yeah,
cheaper ones?
I've only cut like 4 things on it so far, so I can't really have a fair assessment compared to the amount of stuff I've done on the K40, which is on the opposite side of
Right.
my desk.
So I've never used one, but God, $3,000 or $4,000. I'm thinking, yeah, for another $2,000, I could get a 4-foot square bed in a
Sure.
Chinese laser.
The
But
biggest appeal, I would say, is that it's the least steep learning curve to get something from a concept to a finished product. And not saying you'll have all the control you as a tinkerer or someone that likes to be in the weeds, like you'll get no
Right.
granular control over much of anything. But for someone that doesn't really bother them, like for instance my wife, who doesn't really have any experience in a shop doing things like that, or my kids, I mean, you can like literally draw something with a Sharpie on a piece of paper and then get it
Yeah, that's
on a
that's
thing.
awesome.
Like, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
And the codes on the materials, of course, is fantastic. It's changing the settings for the machine,
Yeah,
I'm assuming,
yeah.
when you put,
Yeah.
that's when the laser we had, you put something in there, you know what it did? Absolutely nothing. And you had to manually focus it, you had to change
Sure.
all the power and blah blah blah, but yeah.
so I've got the snow globe thing. The other one that's sort of starting to jump to the top of the list just because it kind of came out of nowhere in the last month or so. Nintendo's releasing a new Metroid, a new 2D Metroid game, and I have a Metroid project that I've had on the drawing board for years. Maybe it's time for me to revisit that and actually do something with it.
Yes, please and thank you.
I have a plastic. It's like I guess you can call it an action figure, or it's a figurine of a Metroid. It's about as big as like a volleyball, maybe a little smaller. I don't know, something between a volleyball and a grapefruit in size. It's a pretty good size one, and I want to make like a stasis chamber or some sort of container or something that it would like live in the game, like on a scientist's desk that you see where it usually like breaks free or has like bubbles, or I don't think it lives in a liquid. I think it just flies, right? But for some reason, when I recall it as a kid, I always think of it being in like a liquidy chamber, but maybe has some like LEDs or some smoke or something. I'm not sure exactly the details, but there's going to be a lot more eyeballs on that sort of searching trending topic on YouTube for the next while.
As far as Nintendo,
Yeah.
I just so you guys know me as a person, my favorite game, I don't play many of the games that you guys have talked about. My go-to game for Nintendo, and again, this is me having ADD as a kid, so I couldn't play a game for more than about 15 minutes and I'm done with it, but Excitebike was one, and the second one was Contra. I lived in that game. I loved it. Anyway, I just had to throw that in there. So you know my Nintendo history.
All
I
right.
didn't play.
You ever want
I hated.
a walk down memory lane?
I hated Zelda.
Depending on
I
how
sucked at Zelda and Link and all those games. Terrible at them.
room dedicated to nostalgia, like everything from literally an arcade cabinet to every Nintendo game you could think of. Game Boy, he has a Virtual Boy. It blows your mind.
I want to build one of those arcade cabinets. That would be cool. I'd really like to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, you had a weird accessories for the Nintendo. I have yet to see one, and I owned one as a kid, but I've never seen one. Do you remember? And I don't remember what it was called, but for like Mike Tyson's Punch Out,
U-Force.
it would work. Yes, I had one of those, and they're pretty rare. I think they're worth money.
So describe it for
now.
those that are not aware.
It's like you can imagine something that Nintendo would make at that time, but it was like the size of a laptop is nowadays probably, and it opened up like a laptop, and it had a flat surface and a part that folded up, and it had it was a black plastic screen. It wasn't a screen that you would visualize something on, but it captured motion, right, Wes? It was
Yeah.
Like, you had to do certain like things with your hands, but the whole premise was you could play Nintendo without a controller and play with just your hands. And
Right.
it worked freaking horrible. It didn't register the moves very well at all.
Yep.
And it was really expensive too at the
Looking
time.
at it right now, I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Really?
No, I think that's pretty cool. I mean, conceptually, I like the idea that it existed.
I wish
I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've asked my parents, like, there's no reason. I don't think they would have ever thrown it away. Man, I wish I still had that thing, just because you don't ever hear about that. I don't think
Yeah.
it lasted very long.
Yeah, 4 weeks ago, the Gaming Historian, which is a fantastic YouTube channel, he did a documentary on the U-Force, and it's really cool. The guy who
I gotta
created
watch that.
is a toy designer, and he did some other things that you will have heard of. But it's like a 37-minute long, well-produced documentary just on the U-Force. So I highly recommend it.
Oh
It
wow,
was really good.
I gotta see that.
I don't remember the U-Force, but I remember that joystick from somewhere.
Yeah.
Probably only with the U-Force.
Yeah.
I don't ever remember seeing that.
It
It
sort of
was-
set the stage ahead of time, before the Wii was ever a glimmer of anybody's mind.
Right.
Sort of
I think it was a little
motion
too ahead of its time.
It was, motion kind of gameplay, but
That's kind of Nintendo's MO.
Yeah, the description reads, let's see, employs a pair of perpendicular consumer IR sensor panels to translate the user's hand movements and controller signals.
right.
1989 is supposedly the release date.
And it was a
That's
third
right.
party
But
peripheral too. Nintendo didn't even develop
Yeah, it wasn't developed by Nintendo. It was
Yeah.
developed by Broderbund, which was a pretty big company back in the day.
Oh, it wasn't a Nintendo accessory. I didn't realize that.
Well, it was. It wasn't designed by them. It was like
but I mean, it
yeah.
wasn't made. Right.
just like the Power
Oh, it was
Glove
a
was
first
actually
party.
not made by them.
They branded it though, didn't they?
They just
Isn't it like
they just
Nintendo?
license it like every other Nintendo thing, but that's all.
Right,
the
but I mean, even
involvement
this
they had.
wasn't licensed the same way. Actually, well,
Yeah,
it has the license on there, but not quite the same.
I didn't have the glove. I had this stupid mat that you just ended up beating on with your hands instead of actually running on.
Power
So you
pad.
could go faster. And then I was a bit spoiled as a kid, apparently, now that I'm saying some of these things. It was like a programmable joystick. It was like the size of an arcade cabinet's joystick, but it had like turbo buttons on it. It would automatically like repeat button pushes for you, so you didn't have to sit there and
the NES
go like
Advantage.
this.
Yeah.
Maybe that. Yeah.
I've got like 4 of them.
Between that and the freaking Game Genie, man. Woo! Game Genie, that was my jam. I love that thing. It was great. I was all about cheating because I wasn't very good at the games.
Has anybody not
Infinite
gone with the
Times.
upcoming projects?
Derek said he's got furniture.
Furniture is the next
next.
thing. I do actually have one other thing that I don't know if I want to put on my channel because I've never done it. It's like a restoration thing. The only reason,
You mean refinishing?
yeah, whatever
Restoring.
word you
Yeah.
want to use, is an old, those big fans that would cut your finger off way back in the day that were usually like an old mint green color, like 2-foot blades. Like you
Yeah.
turn it on, it sounded like a gale force wind. When I was a kid, we didn't have air conditioning at my grandma's house, and I slept in front of that fan on like Nuke 30, and it was like set right next to my bed. Like I would like, here's the fan, and that's how close I would sleep to it because I was so hot. Well, I got that fan from my parents a little while back. It's still the exact same one from when I was a kid, and I'd really like to like repaint it and make it really nice. Just because it's kind of nostalgic for me because I grew up with that stupid ugly fan.
How is it in like terrible condition? Because apparently objects that are in like the absolute worst condition you could possibly find them in, and quote
Right.
unquote restoring them to modern like sensibilities
Yeah.
or making them look new is a huge
Yeah,
like
and I
thing
could.
on YouTube.
It has paint on it, but
Yeah.
you could do the whole hydrogen peroxide and salt trick and just make it look rusty as hell and make the thumbnail look good.
Right. Some of those are I think super staged, but that's a different topic
Oh.
for another day.
Yeah, they are. But I've never done that on my channel. It doesn't necessarily fit with the stuff that I do, but I don't know. We'll see.
Something I like asking a lot of our guests that come on is kind of like dream projects. So you've made a lot of like a really, a lot of cool furniture that I've seen on your website here and then different videos. Especially like your last video too. Is there a dream project or something you haven't quite tackled yet that you would like to someday?
A dream project. I probably got a few of those. I'd say one dream project that I probably wouldn't do a video on just because there's so many videos on it already that would be way better than I could, is I want to build a actual real timber frame carport over my driveway. Instead of like the little metal framed ones you see at a lot of places, I actually want to build a timber framed one. And of course that would be a lot of work and I've never done that before, so it'd take a long time. But as far as something I would do a video on, dream project. Let me think. I would really like to make a very involved, very advanced, high quality arcade cabinet, kind of like Bob did. I like to make stuff, arcade cabinet like that. I would like to do something like that, only I think I would like to make one that was like the sit down with the steering wheel type. Because those
That'd
are
be
the
really
ones
cool.
those are the ones I enjoyed as a kid more than anything. I could sit down in those things and I don't know, just like I said, I kind of suffered from ADD, but for some reason the racing games I could always play longer than the ones where I had to time jumping over the fake little snake pit or something and then I get pissed off and kick the machine. The racing ones I could I don't know. I enjoyed those more as a kid, so I think that's probably what I would make. But the way I want to make it would be, I'd have to be calling Wes all the time for electronic help on getting that set up.
Spy Hunter game, that would be pretty rad. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. Yep, that'd be cool. You don't want to play one of the worst ones ever, like Back to the Future or something. Do you ever play that game? It's like ranked one of the top 5 worst Nintendo games ever.
Well, for an arcade game, I don't remember that one.
I don't know if it may not have been an arcade game. It's just an NES.
Oh, the regular game, yeah, it's horrible. Absolutely.
Yeah, but see, when I was a kid, all we had was a local grocery store where you could rent video games, but they never had very many. So you go up there, and it was next to the produce section. So you'd have grandma getting her carrots and potatoes, and you could sit there and pick up your Nintendo games at the same time.
Sounds
But
amazing.
they only had like, I don't know, 10 or 15 of them at a time. And I would just go, just go down the line and get them all, try them all. And turns out most of them were terrible. They were really
All the good ones, people just stole them.
Yeah, or they were the ones like, remember back when renting movies was a thing at Blockbuster or wherever you go, all the new movies were always gone. That's kind of like if a new popular game was out, literally, I'd go to the grocery store like 2 or 3 times a day, every day, just to see if it came back in. No. That's what I get for living in a tiny town. Growing up in, anyway.
You guys geeking out about anything?
I'm geeking out about something a little bit different than I usually do, and it's another maker for that I watch periodically. It's Andrew Klein, and he's been doing a lot of really cool stuff on his channel. And one of his last videos, he made this really kind of cool tilting table for his Glowforge, and I thought that was like a really cool kind of. I'm not sure if it's called like cantilever, but it seems kind of like a cantilever design. But instead of doing like a typical flip table where something is upside down and then flips right side up, whatever objects are on those the surfaces, when it tilts, it rotates so they always stay like upright. And he had it so that when it's in the horizontal position, it locks in place. And then he has a Glowforge Pro that he got, and he can use the pass through slot on the Glowforge when it's in that horizontal position. And I've done a fair amount of woodworking in some furniture and little stuff, but when it comes to anything that takes any degree of engineering or movement, it kind of baffles me a little bit. My mind doesn't keep up or can't visualize the same way. So whether it's Andrew Klein or like Izzy, when they make a contraption out of wood that way, I'm just always really fascinated by it. And I thought it was a really cool build. Andrew Klein is my pick of the week for what we're geeking out about.
If I could ever look into somebody's mind of how it works, he would be one of them. Like, he comes up with some pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, he does.
Really does.
And the title, Flip Table That Doesn't Flip When You Flip
Yep.
It.
Why not?
How about you guys?
So after our discussion of Shang-Chi and me talking about Black Myth, somebody recommended that I watch
Yes.
Kim's Convenience. Was that
It
you?
might have been. I've talked about it before for a while. I think the show is like really enjoyable.
Yeah, I watched the first episode and then I watched a season and a half when I should have been sleeping. And I just finished the series finale yesterday afternoon because it's so good.
What's it called
so in Kim's Convenience. It is so enjoyable. It is a very Canadian television show. So their drama is not like American drama, but it's like happy drama, and it's just so fun to watch. And the gags they have are just I laughed out loud in a way that I don't usually with quote unquote comedy television shows. And I loved it. I was so happy that you recommended that because
Yeah, it has an amount of heart that is really missing in a lot of American TV.
Yeah.
And even though I love the action stuff, I like the stuff that's really edgy at times. Sometimes I like something just kind of like good-hearted and pure that way, and I think that show is representative of that.
Yeah, it got me interested in the behind the scenes of the show and how and why it got canceled and kind of stuff. So it sent me down a rabbit hole. But thank you, Sean, for recommending that. 'Cause,
Absolutely.
I was geeking
Yeah.
out hard about it
I
all
thought
week.
you'd like it.
Yeah.
How are you, Wes?
I am geeking out over What If. The latest episode was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was. I was super enjoying that one. I had a smile on my face the entire time. But besides that, I want to mention it's not really a geek out. It's more of just a shout out or a in remembrance of. We actually had a maker friend of mine that he was a friend with a lot of other makers by the name of Braxton Worthlin that he passed away unfortunately
What?
recently. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a wood turner. For those that are not aware, a wood turner out of
Oh.
Las Vegas. Unfortunately, he had a sudden bout with cancer, and ended up passing away, which is really sad. But he was super big in the maker community. He didn't have like a super prolific YouTube channel. Not that that's a requirement to be big in the maker community, because he was just always had the biggest smile. Like I met him at a woodworking convention many years ago, at this point, and we hit it off because he was also a stay-at-home dad and a maker trying to get into the YouTube kind of scene and that sort of thing. So we kind of had a kinship there. But yeah, just definitely wanted to give him a shout out. And those of you that have never heard of him, check out his YouTube channel. It's pretty fun stuff.
Yeah.
He's the first maker I ever met in person. After I started my YouTube channel, I went to a little maker meetup here,
Oh,
and his was the first booth right at the beginning, and I was one of the first people that was there like super early in the morning, right when the gates first opened, and I started walking around not knowing if I had it in me to talk to anybody, and he like flagged me down and had me come over and showed me what wood turning was all about, and I ended up talking to him for like an hour and a half.
yeah, he was the nicest.
And it
dude.
was, yeah, it was amazing. He's such a cool guy. He is such a cool guy. I was pretty sad to find out when it happened.
Yeah.
I never got to meet him, but I definitely know who he was.
The name sounds familiar. I don't know who he was, but actually the name sounds familiar for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
Yeah, he did a wood turning podcast with Carl Jacobson, and he's been on a couple other podcasts as well, I believe.
yeah.
That he was really big into wood turning. He was a member of like local like artisans like guilds and stuff, I believe, in his area, and he was always willing to help a person out and just had a big smile, very happy-go-lucky kind of person. So it's extra. Not that they're never tragic, but it just seemed like it compounded it. Just couldn't happen to a nicer guy in the worst possible way.
Well, can I have more than one geeking out?
Absolutely,
Because it's hard
yeah.
for me to pick one.
Yeah, go for it.
So, probably the most recent thing, because I listen to a lot of podcasts. Because I don't know if I mentioned this, I do still have a full-time job, and I travel a lot doing sales. So I'm in a car by myself. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I don't know if I heard it from you guys or who I heard it from, because I wasn't aware of it. But the woodworking talk show that Steve Ramsey started, where he's interviewing other woodworker type people that most of them have YouTube or something like that. I think he's really good at interviewing those people, and I like hearing the backstories, a lot of that. So I really enjoyed that podcast. And then on a bigger note, probably the biggest thing that I've been excited about was the Matrix trailer that dropped what was that, last week or whenever it was?
2-3 weeks ago. Yeah.
Has it been that long? We could talk about movies all night, and I'm a terrible, terrible movie critic. Like, I'm just like, I guess I'm too easy to please. Like, when people say, "Oh, that movie was so terrible," like, I guess I don't know. A movie has to be really, really bad for me to not like it. So I liked all the Matrixes. I don't care if people people can shame me for hating the second and third one. That's fine. But I thought
You're automatically friends right now.
they may have tried to jump the shark a bit on some things, made it a little odd. But when I watch movies like that, because I love the first one so much, I was so invested into that. Like, I think they could have made a movie about kittens, and I still would have liked it. So, I don't know. I guess I'm too easy, but the trailer was awesome. I hope the movie's as good as it seems like it's going to be.
I'm right there with you. I'm still geeking out about it weeks later.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, and I love oh my God, what's his name?
Owen Wilson.
Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves. Holy crap! I just like him as an actor. Anyway, I love the John Wick movies too. I like his style of acting. So, that's me.
You know who else's style we like?
And speaking of you, we want to thank our top patron, who is SquareSplinter,
Who is that?
among some other folks.
Can I have a name from now on? Can I be Derek with SquareSplinter?
You got to change your name on Patreon. That's what I'm reading from every time. I look at it every time. This is a little behind the scenes.
Horse milk.
I look at it every time we do a podcast to make sure my information is up to date, sir. So it says SquareSplinter, so I'm going to read SquareSplinter.
Do you promise you'll read whatever it says?
Within reason, yes.
As long as it's appropriate.
Yes.
I will fix you up next week.
Thank
Can't
you
wait.
for your support. Along with Clinton and Jordan, you guys are awesome. And all of our patrons. We absolutely couldn't do this without you. We appreciate each
I
and every
haven't
one of you.
I haven't watched the chat. Is Clinton in the chat?
He's never in the chat. No.
Oh, come on, Clinton, you're a freaking patron, not in the chat. What are you?
He's
SquareSplinter,
here in
never around here.
He's here in spirit, yeah.
Well, we'd like to hear from all of you, and one way you could get in contact with us is the contact page from the website. You could give us you could leave any suggestions for the show that you have, topic ideas, anything that you like. On the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes right there in your browser at makinggeeks.com. And don't forget about the shop. We have merch and some apparel available, so you can wear your geek proudly.
And if you want to contact us individually, especially Derek, now that you know all about him, you can find him at SquareSplinter. No dashes, hyphens, underscores, anything like that.
Oh, and it's the same for everything: Facebook, Instagram, all that.
So you can find Derek at SquareSplinter. Wes, you can find at Geeksmithing. Sean, you can find at Geek Builders. And myself, you can find at Once Upon a Workbench. Speaking of Workbench,
or eating some more healthy.
Are you? Yeah. Are you going to Workbench Con, Derek?
Yes, I gotta crack open my wallet to spend the money for that dang ticket.
So I got my ticket to the event. I don't have a plane ticket, but I am officially going. So all of us here right now are officially going, correct?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I think so.
Crap! Is today the last day for the $100 less ticket?
It might be.
The last of September. Oh crud! Way to end on a sour note, Donovan.
I'm sorry.
It's still September.
But if you want to come see us in
there.
person, we're all going to be at Workbench Con in a couple months. So get your tickets now before the prices go up.
Yeah, they will, and they're already not cheap.
So before I rush to get my ticket, I want to make sure that I thank everybody in the live chat. It's always a lot of fun seeing all the comments that appear and pop up during the show because it makes it even more enjoyable to record each week. You can find new episodes of the show every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from all of us to all of you, have a fantastic week.
See ya. Thanks for joining us today, buddy.
Yeah,
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Have a good week.